In today's class, we will be looking into the cyber network security hands-on. Mainly, we'll focus on managing the administrative and root accounts and how to install the hardware. So first one that we have is managing the administrator and root accounts. So as a network administrator, a person is granted a privilege user account on many network systems and devices. So privileged or administrative accounts can exercise unlimited authority on the system and the network. Now, there are some key best practices for managing the privileged accounts. And the first one is that all users, including the network administrators, should normally use unprivileged non-administrative accounts. Secondly, administrative operations should be effectively separated from other user activities. For example, say an email and an internet browsing should not be performed using administrative accounts or while managing devices or services remotely. So you have to be very careful in the use of any legitimate websites to perform the software updates and upgrades that are acceptable. And these policies, that is performing any operations, should be essential for network security. And there are three reasons why we need to follow the two main best practices. The first one is that if you are logged in with a privileged account, a user can receive an unexpected but authentic looking email and open its attachment, which will install a rootkit. So as you are aware, rootkit is a malicious software that will take complete control of an account for a remote attacker. So by compromising a privileged account, the entire system, all its accounts, computer power and the data will be compromised. The second reason is that a network administrator who is logged in as a root super user will visit a drive-by malware website, a rootkit which will be installed unknowingly, and the attacker will have the administrative privileges on the network. The third reason is that a network administrator has a web browser Windows which is open for managing the various routers, databases and say company website. So during some of the free time, the administrator might be doing some personal internet browsing and he might stumble upon a website that performs a cross-site scripting attack, which is in short referred to as the XSS. So this XSS attack will involve the running of these malicious scripts inside the administrator's browser, and the scripts will have all the authority of the network administrator in all open browser windows and tabs. So in order to be very careful from or to avoid these kind of attacks, we need to ensure that there are certain policies that are required to be followed for network security. Now let us see how managing administrator and root accounts is done in various operating systems. So the first one that we have is Windows. So usually the Windows accounts are assigned either an administrative or a normal user privilege. So you can log out as a normal user and log in as an administrative user in order to gain the administrative privileges. Also, you can repeat the process in reverse in order to return to a normal account. So on a new Windows systems, you can also switch user accounts and gain temporary administrative privileges through the user account control, which is referred to as UAC. So when an attempt is made to perform a privileged operation, what happens is that UAC will challenge for an administrative account password, and if you are logged in to the system with a non-administrative account and are trying to attempt to do something on the system, say that requires elevated level of permissions, by default the Windows command will shell out all the non-privileges. So to create a privileged shell, we need to choose the start option, go to all programs and accessories, and then right click on CMD, that is the command shell, and select the run as an administrator option. Now let us look into how the administrative and root accounts are managed in Linux and Unix. The administrative accounts in Linux and Unix is the username root. So from a non-root account, the Linux users can switch to a root account with the super user command, which is denoted as su-, which challenges you for the root password. So the dash that is present means that you can also adapt to the root's environment variables and the home directory. So you need to use the exit command to de-escalate back to the user account. Use the super user command to log into other accounts such as su-, my account. In the third operating system like the VMware, the only ESXi will have the administrative accounts, where the VMware player and the VMware workstation are a single user desktop applications without the user authentication. So basically this ESXi is a sparse operating system whose entire purpose is to administer the virtual machines. So it does not have internet browsers or other user applications, but the network administrators can make use of privileged accounts on this operating system. Now let us look into how to perform the hardware installation. If you see, the computer hardware is generally not operating system specific, although some platforms are unable to boot certain operating systems. So the basic components for the desktop systems are pedestal, meaning processor, memory and peripherals. We also have the display or the monitor, the keyboard, pointing device, uninterruptible power supply, that is the UPS systems, and cables for all of the components plus a network cable. So some systems are more bundled, such as say laptops or MacBooks, while they bundle everything except the wireless mouse and the wireless keyboard that will be available separately. So for pointing devices and keyboards, a standard connector would be the universal serial bus, and we can have even the wired network cables, which will be making use of various connectors. Now, although the wired network cables are standardized, there could be dozens of competing other standards for fiber optic cables. So usually each shop must adopt one of the standards which is compatible with the network interface card and the network switch components. So generally what happens is that the computer monitors conform to one of the prevalent standards, say video graphics adapter or a digital video interface, whereas some monitors will have both types of connectors and support switching between the pedestals. So the standard power cable is called as the pigtail, and it conforms to each country's electrical standard. Usually there are separate pigtails for monitor and the pedestal. So we need to always consult to the manufacturer's instructions for specifications about setting up the system, and a typical hardware setup sequence for a desktop pedestal will include these following steps. So the first hardware setup step would be that we need to position the components on the top of a desk. Optionally, if the system has a separate floor pedestal, then it is placed underneath the desk along with the UPS, with the backside and the connector ports facing the installer. Second would be to connect the monitor pigtail and display cable and secure the thumb screws if there are any. Then we need to feed the monitor, mouse and the keyboard cables down through a desktop opening or around the backside or towards the sides. We need to make the connections to the network, monitor, mouse and display cables to the pedestal. If a new UPS is being used, we need to connect the battery by removing a panel and an instruction sticker and then fastening an internal plug. As a sixth step, we need to connect the pigtail to the pedestal and then connect it to the UPS, connect the UPS to the electrical outlet, turn on the UPS, double check all the cable connections. So here, instead of specifying or segregating the steps into many, what we have done is we have configured all this and combined to form just 4 steps. So the last thing that would be needed to be done would be to verify the work. So we need not make any assumptions, just turn on the computer, verify that the monitor displays the boot sequence on the screen. So if an operating system is installed, we need to continue the booting to check the keyboard, mouse and the network functionality. Alternatively, you can even test the system using bootable CD or DVD test tools such as Backtrack, Kane or Helix. Now we have looked into how the hardware installation is done for the computer, but we also need to look into how the hardware installation will be done in the server rooms. So for server rooms, we make use of the vertical rack capacity, which will be measured in rack mountable units. So basically you have rack mountable units with various vertical rack capacity, and these racks come with custom rails which will allow the hardware to be rolled out of the track, as you can see here, rolled out of the track or like a drawer. So special cables will guide the hardware with hinges so that there are no disconnections. So for server rooms, the rack mounted systems generally come without monitors or keyboards, and a single user interface can serve an entire rack using a keyboard, video, mouse, switch. So a rack console is typically um, one unit, and it's mounted on a movable rails with the integrated trackball, keyboard and display. So the keyboard, video, mouse switches use standard connectors for the server and console cables, and they make use of adapters and connectors on the KVM end, that is the keyboard, video, mouse end. So we can use many pedestal to rack mounted servers, but if you look at the typical installation sequence for a sliding rail rack server, will include these steps. So the first thing would be to unpack the server and its components such as server rails and cables. Then we need to affix the server rails to the rack, which would be of 19-inch. Some rails may require screws and some are screwless. So a rack with a square holed brackets may require special fasteners with clips to affix to the rack bracket. Now after that, from the front of the rack, we extend the rails out of the track and snap the server into the rails. Then we can retract the server into the rack. From the back of the rack, we can connect the network and the KVM switch cables and connect the pigtail to the server and UPS or UPS connected power strip. We need to double check that all the cable connections are fastened properly. From the front of the rack, we need to power up the server. Some servers or network devices are having a dedicated time when they'll be always on. So we need to verify the work, that is using the KVM, keyboard, video, mouse. We need to verify the functionality of the keyboard, mouse and the display connections. And we need to ensure always or take note that we do not connect the system to the network until it is patched and secured with the anti-malware such as an antivirus or a software firewall after we have taken those precautions. We can attach a network cable and we can test for network connectivity. Now, when we are talking about installing the server rooms, we have seen the sequence, but along with the server rooms, we need to always think about the various network devices that are involved. So some of the common network devices are the modems, firewalls, routers and switches. Now modems connect an internal network to the telecommunication networks such as a digital subscriber line or any other telecommunication service provider. And firewalls are network boundary devices which do have enforcing rules for separation between the internal and the external network communications. Whereas routers interconnect network segments by routing and switching data using the internet protocol addresses between the segments. And routers also translate the IP addresses and the media access control addresses within the network segments. So each network interface card will have its unique hardware address or the MAC address. So for Ethernet, a network segment is considered a broadcast domain between computers whose network interface cards will operate according to the carrier sense multiple access or the collision detection algorithm. In short, abbreviated as CSMA or the CD algorithm. The terms network segment, subnet, and the LAN can be used interchangeably. So, in this case, sometimes what we refer is the network segment, sometimes we refer it as a subnet, and sometimes we would be referring it as LAN. So similarly, we have the terms like computer, machine, server, host, and box, which again can be used interchangeably. So it is very important to know that how these terms are being used, especially when you want to communicate with the industry professionals. Finally, we have the switches or the network switches, which are the repeater devices that extend the network segments by mirroring all the broadcast signals to additional cable connections.